If you're taking NMN in the morning, you're wasting roughly 60% of it. That's not a brand opinion, that's cell biology, and your supplement label isn't going to mention it. And if you're pairing NMN with Resveratrol, which a lot of people do because they've read what David Sinclair takes, there's a second problem hiding in plain sight. It's actually documented in Sinclair's own research. Somehow it never makes it into the supplement guides. We're going to fix both today. Here's why this matters. NAD+ is a coenzyme your cells need to produce energy, repair DNA, and run a class of proteins called sirtuins. Sirtuins regulate how fast your cells age. When NAD+ drops, those processes slow down. At 20, your NAD+ is running at full capacity. By 50, it's down roughly 50%. By 60, closer to 80% depleted. That decline is not a theory, it's been measured in human tissue samples. NMN is a precursor to NAD+. You take NMN, your cells convert it. NAD+ goes up. The aging pathways that depend on it start working again. That's the premise. The human trials from 2021 through 2024 are starting to support it. The gap between NMN in your stomach and NAD+ in your cells is wider than most people realize, and most people are making that gap wider with simple, fixable mistakes. Before the protocol, you need to understand one thing. Otherwise, the timing advice won't make sense. NMN doesn't just drift through your bloodstream. It needs a specific transporter protein, SLC12A8, to cross the intestinal wall. Researchers at Washington University mapped this in 2019. The transporter is sensitive to circadian rhythm. It's more active at certain times of day, less active at others. For their mice, absorption was significantly better at the start of the active period. Not right at waking, but an hour or two into movement and light exposure. For humans, that window is not first thing in the morning. I'll explain why in a moment. Most people take NMN first thing in the morning because that's when they take everything else. Habit stacking. Makes sense on the surface, but NMN absorption is tied to your circadian rhythm, specifically to transporter activity, not the clock on your wall. The SLC12A8 transporter peaks roughly 2 to 3 hours after you wake up and start moving, not at the moment of waking. If you're rolling out of bed and swallowing your NMN capsule before coffee, you're taking it while the transporter is still warming up. The practical fix: take NMN with your first meal, not before it. A 2023 trial in Japan had subjects take NMN either fasted or with breakfast. The breakfast group showed measurably higher NAD+ at the 4-hour mark. One thing to clear up: NMN is water-soluble. It does not need dietary fat to absorb. The meal timing recommendation is purely about transporter activity. You're not taking NMN with food because of fat. You're taking it with food because that's when your gut is ready for it. That distinction matters, because the next supplement in this stack is the exact opposite. David Sinclair has talked publicly about his stack multiple times. The Huberman Lab podcast, his own interviews, his book. The protocol he describes: NMN, Resveratrol, Metformin. He takes the first two together in the morning. Most people read that and buy both supplements and take them together on an empty stomach. That's where it goes wrong. What people skip is the next detail. Sinclair says he takes Resveratrol with yogurt. That's not a food preference, that's pharmacokinetics. And if you're not doing it, your Resveratrol is almost certainly not reaching your bloodstream in any useful quantity. Resveratrol has a documented absorption problem that the supplement industry does not advertise. A 2011 study in molecular nutrition and food research measured Resveratrol bioavailability under two conditions. Fasted, roughly 29% absorption. With a high-fat meal, over 90%. Same pill, same dose. 3 times the absorption, just from having fat in your digestive system first. Resveratrol is fat-soluble. Without fat present, It can't cross the intestinal barrier efficiently. Most of it gets broken down before it reaches the bloodstream. Sinclair takes it with yogurt because yogurt has fat. Even low-fat yogurt has enough. He's not being quirky. He's applying his own lab's findings to his own morning routine. If you've been taking resveratrol on an empty stomach, you've been paying for a supplement that your gut is mostly discarding. That's the thing nobody puts in the marketing copy. So here's the protocol, assembled correctly. NMN and resveratrol go together with your first meal of the day. The meal needs to have some fat, eggs with olive oil, yogurt, a handful of almonds. It does not need to be a large meal. For NMN, the range used in human trials runs from 250 milligrams to 500 milligrams daily. Sinclair has mentioned taking 1 gram, but the human evidence at that dose is thin. 250 milligrams is a defensible starting point. 500 milligrams if you want to match the better-powered trials. For resveratrol, 500 milligrams daily is the dose used in most of the studies worth citing. Now, Metformin. Sinclair takes it. Some longevity physicians prescribe it off-label. It is not available over the counter in the US or UK. I'm not going to recommend you chase a prescription for a diabetes drug because a researcher uses it personally. That's a conversation for your doctor. What I will say, berberine targets the same AMPK pathway. It's available without a prescription. The evidence is less robust than metformin, but it exists. If you want to cover that pathway without a doctor visit, berberine at 500 milligrams is the option most longevity researchers consider. One more timing note. NMN raises NAD+, which activates sirtuins. Resveratrol is also a sirtuin activator. In theory, they work together. In practice, taking them simultaneously with a fat-containing meal appears to maximize both pathways. There's a concern in some research about whether certain NAD+ precursors can interfere with sirtuin activation if timed incorrectly. Taking them together seems to avoid that window. A meta-analysis published in NPJ Aging last year reviewed 11 human NMN trials. The headline finding? NMN reliably raises blood NAD+ levels across age groups. That part held up. But the functional benefits, improved muscle function, better sleep, reduced fatigue, improved endurance, appeared almost exclusively in participants over 40. Younger participants got the NAD+ increase. They just didn't seem to need the extra NAD+ for anything their body was noticeably missing. This is worth sitting with. If you're 35 and healthy, and your energy is fine, you may take this stack for 6 months and feel nothing different. That's not the supplement failing. Your NAD+ decline may not yet be steep enough to create a measurable gap. If you're 45 or older, and your energy, recovery, or sleep has been gradually declining over the last few years, the evidence that NMN does something useful is now meaningfully stronger than it was in 2022. The timing and absorption issues are real regardless of age, but the question of who actually benefits has a clearer answer now than it did before. To make this easy to screenshot, morning, with your first meal. Meal must contain fat, NMN, 250 to 500 milligrams, resveratrol, 500 milligrams, optional, berberine 500 milligrams, if not working with a physician on metformin. That's it. If you want a measurable baseline before you start, get a biological age test. True age or a pheno-age calculator from a standard blood panel. Take a second test at 6 months. That gives you a signal that's more reliable than how you feel day to day. If you're under 40 and otherwise healthy, don't expect to feel a dramatic shift. If you're over 45 and your baseline has been declining, give it 60 days before you decide whether it's working. Next, I looked at the third-party lab testing on 11 NMN brands. Several of them contain significantly less NMN than the label says. Some contain almost none. That video is next. Before you go, 2 quick notes. First, I'm an AI wellness educator, not a real person. Dr. James Chen is a synthetic character built to make longevity science more accessible. Second, everything in this video is educational content based on published research, not medical advice. Before starting any supplement protocol or making significant changes to your health routine, please speak with your physician. Links to all studies referenced are in the description.